I thought I was marrying the love of my life. The venue was booked, the guests were flying in, and my mom, who raised me alone, had poured her heart into helping us plan it all. Then I found out my fiancée and her family had been mocking her behind closed doors and planning to hide her at the wedding because she didn't fit their image. That's when I realized this wasn't love, and there was no way I was saying I do. I'm 32, and until recently, I was engaged to a woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. Her name's Haley. We met 5 years ago at a friend's housewarming in Chicago. It wasn't anything romantic at first, just two people talking on a beat-up couch while some Spotify playlists cycled through the same 3 indie songs. She was wearing this mustard yellow hoodie that looked 3 sizes too big and laughed at my terrible attempt at a Gordon Ramsay impression. It was low-key, but something clicked. I don't know how else to say it. She saw me, like really saw me, and I hadn't felt that in a long time. I'm just a regular guy. I work in network security, grew up in a small town in Indiana, raised by a single mom who worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on. My mom, Ellen, is the strongest woman I know, resourceful, kind, and the type of person who'd give you her last $10 even if she needed gas. I always knew I wanted someone who could match that kind of loyalty, and for a while, Haley seemed like that person. Things moved slow but steady. We dated for a couple years before moving in together. She was an interior design freelance, mostly, though her family helped her land clients early on. I started noticing things then, little things. Her parents were very involved in her life. Like daily calls, constant critiques on everything from her food choices to the towels we picked for the bathroom. But Haley seemed used to it. She brushed it off with that nervous chuckle she did when she didn't want to rock the boat. I chalked it up to tight-knit family energy. God, I was so naive. Haley's parents, Richard and Diane, live in the suburbs just outside of Milwaukee. Picture the kind of couple who have a golf membership, judge wine by the label, and make passive-aggressive comments that they disguise as just being honest. They drove a Tesla before anyone in our circle even knew how to pronounce Elon, and they loved to casually mention how humble beginnings build character, while simultaneously reminding everyone they'd built their life from scratch. With the help of a small inheritance, of course. Still, I wanted to impress them. I didn't have money or prestige, but I had respect, decency, and a solid job. I treated their daughter like a queen. I thought that would be enough. It wasn't, but we'll get there. Right now, I just want to talk about the beginning, the golden days when things still felt good. When Haley and I got engaged, it was magic. I took her back to the first park we ever walked through, the one with the weird bench art and the overgrown ivy arches. I had her best friend hide in the bushes with a camera. When she said yes, I swear, the whole world narrowed down to just her smile and the sound of wind moving through the trees. For a brief second, I thought life couldn't get better. I had no idea it was already beginning to fall apart. After the engagement, things moved fast. Haley wanted a spring wedding, nothing too extravagant, just elegant with a touch of rustic. We were both working full-time, so her parents offered to help with some of the planning. I didn't see the red flags then. I just thought they were trying to be supportive. Helpful, even. At first, it felt like a dream. Haley and my mom, Ellen, got along surprisingly well, or so I thought. My mom adored Haley. She saw how happy I was and threw herself into helping us. She offered to host a bridal shower, even baked sample cakes from scratch because she said bakery prices were a scam. She spent weekends researching florists, folding sample napkins, and even figured out how to build a custom wooden arch for the ceremony. Haley called her mom from the beginning. She'd text her late at night with questions about recipes, ask her opinion on dresses, send her photos of centerpieces. And Ellen? She was thrilled. After raising me on her own, I think she finally felt like she was gaining a daughter. That she was included. That she mattered. But there were cracks in the facade. Haley's parents, Richard and Diane, never really included my mom in anything formal. They made polite gestures, a seat at a planning meeting, an invite to a tasting. But when decisions were made, they happened behind closed doors. They'd send out an email with final choices, usually copying Haley but not my mom. I tried not to make a big deal out of it. I figured, maybe that's just how they are. Formal. Reserved. Not everyone's as warm as Ellen. One afternoon, Haley and I were at her parents' house for brunch. It was a little too perfect. Fresh flowers, eggs and ramekins, not a single speck of dust on anything. My mom had been invited too, which surprised me. I thought, okay, maybe things are shifting. Halfway through the meal, Diane dropped a comment that made my stomach turn. "So Ellen," she said, stirring her tea. Are you planning on wearing one of your cardigans to the ceremony? Or will it be more formal this time? I laughed. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. My mom just smiled. Tight. Said, I haven't decided yet. And Richard chimed in. I'm sure you'll find something understated. They both laughed. Like it was a joke, but it wasn't. I looked at Haley. She said nothing. My mom changed the subject. I let it go for then. But something shifted in me. That was the moment I started seeing the truth. The warmth wasn't real. The relationship between my mom and Haley's parents was a polite performance, and Ellen was always the outsider. Haley and I drove home in silence. I remember looking at her at a red light and saying, Hey, was it just me? Or were your parents a little off today? She hesitated, then shrugged. They're just particular. Don't take it personally. But I did take it personally, because they weren't just insulting a guest. They were insulting my mother. The incident at brunch stuck with me. I couldn't shake it. I tried to talk to Haley about it again a few days later, gently this time. I didn't want to start a fight, just open a conversation. Do your parents not like my mom? I asked. Haley was quiet for a second too long. Then she said, They just have high standards. It's not personal. I let it drop, but in my gut, I knew better. I'd seen this before. Growing up, my mom worked 2 jobs and wore hand-me-down coats. The number of times she was looked down on by people with nice lawns and shiny cars. Too many to count. I learned early that some people don't need a reason to feel superior, they just do. But still, I hoped. And then came the wedding rehearsal. It was held at this gorgeous vineyard 2 hours outside the city. Haley's dream venue. All string lights and open sky and rustic with everything. We had family, bridesmaids, groomsmen, the works. My mom showed up in a nice navy dress and low heels. Nothing fancy, but perfectly appropriate. That's when Diane made her move. Right in front of the wedding coordinator, the caterer, and 3 members of the bridal party, she said, Ellen, I know it's last minute, but are you sure you're comfortable reading that passage tomorrow? It's a big moment, and the vocabulary might be a bit tricky. I froze. Ellen blinked. I've been practicing for weeks, she said, smiling. Diane smiled back. Too wide, too fake. Of course, dear. I just meant the audience will be sophisticated. We wouldn't want anything to come across as clumsy. Someone laughed. One of Haley's cousins, I think. I locked eyes with my mom. I could see the flicker of shame, the way she pulled her cardigan tighter over her chest. She said nothing, just nodded. I looked at Haley. She was right there. She heard everything. She said nothing. That night, my mom cried in the guest room. And I sat on the floor of the hallway outside, my fists clenched, my heart racing, trying to figure out how the hell we got here. How a celebration of love turned into a stage for cruelty. I wanted to confront them. Scream. Tell Diane exactly what I thought of her sophistication. But I didn't. Because I was still hoping, stupidly, that Haley would see it. That she'd stand up. That she'd defend the woman who had treated her like family from day one. But she didn't. And something inside me started to break. The morning after the rehearsal, I didn't sleep. I laid awake on the couch in the Airbnb, replaying everything in my head. Diane's smirk. Haley's silence. My mom's forced smile. I kept thinking, how did this get so ugly? I waited until Haley got up, curled up in a plush robe with a cup of coffee, scrolling Instagram like we weren't on the verge of something I couldn't name. I asked her, again, as calmly as I could, why didn't you say anything yesterday? She didn't even look up from her phone. Say anything about what? About your mom humiliating mine. In front of everyone. The clumsy comment. She set her coffee down like I'd asked her to give up oxygen. Luke, you're blowing this way out of proportion. My mom was just nervous. The reading is important. No, don't do that, I said. Don't gaslight me. Her expression shifted, irritated now. I'm not gaslighting you. I'm trying to keep this weekend from turning into a drama fest. If your mom's that sensitive, maybe she shouldn't have volunteered to do something she's not comfortable with. And just like that, something snapped. She's not sensitive, I said, standing up. She's been nothing but kind to you. Supportive. She treated you like her own daughter. And my parents have paid for half this wedding, she shot back. They have a right to their opinions. I stared at her, stunned. You really think that buys them the right to treat my mom like garbage? She didn't answer. And that silence said everything. That day was supposed to be the calm before the storm. Final walkthroughs, rehearsal dinner, laughter with friends. Instead, I spent it watching Haley float through the day like nothing had happened, posing for photos, sipping wine, laughing with her bridesmaids, while my mom kept to the background, shrinking a little more every time Diane walked by with another backhanded comment. The worst part? I started to realize something awful. Maybe this wasn't a glitch in Haley's character. Maybe this was her character. That night, I found my mom sitting outside on a porch swing, looking up at the stars like they were the only safe thing left. "I don't want to ruin this for you," she said quietly. "But if you don't want to go through with it, I'll still be proud of you." I didn't say anything, just sat next to her. And for the first time since the engagement, I wasn't sure this wedding should happen. The week before the wedding, my life had become a blur of checklist chaos. Vendor calls, seating changes, napkin colors. I barely had time to breathe, let alone think. Haley was off enjoying her bachelorette weekend in a luxury suite her parents had booked downtown, champagne, silk robes, custom playlists. I was stuck juggling deliveries and invoices while trying to pretend everything wasn't falling apart behind the scenes. My mom was still helping, bless her. She kept things running while staying completely in the background, never once complaining about being left out of the official planning conversations. She just wanted me to be happy, and she thought Haley loved her. Then came the call that changed everything. It was from Logan, a guy I'd known since high school. Not exactly a best friend, but a solid, dependable guy who'd been helping out with logistics for the wedding. He'd offered to transport food, decor, and gift bags between venues as a favor. Honest, quiet, trustworthy. "Hey man," he said, his voice tense. "I just dropped off those champagne crates and snack boards at Haley's suite." I said thanks, expecting a quick update about something minor. But he didn't hang up. "There's something I need to tell you," he continued, slowly. "I overheard something while I was there. And I recorded it. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I thought you should know." Apparently, Logan had made 2 trips to the suite. The first delivery was loud and chaotic, music playing, girls laughing, champagne corks popping. He brought in the second cart quietly. The girls, thinking he was gone, kept talking. He was near the entryway, out of sight, when the conversation shifted. They were talking about my mom. The tone was playful at first, joking about her dress, how off-brand she'd look in the wedding photos. But then it got mean. "She's sweet and all," Haley said. "But can we please not put her in the front row? My parents are already nervous about the Wexlers seeing her." Diane jumped in, half whispering but clear. "We'll keep her with the plus ones. Or back near the kitchen door. Somewhere subtle." I told the photographer to limit shots with extended family anyway, she added, her voice cool and calculated. "Let's keep the aesthetic clean." One of the bridesmaids actually snorted laughing. And then the gut punch. "If we could find a way to uninvite her," Diane said, "I'd do it in a heartbeat." "Same," Haley said. That's when Logan hit record. He caught a few more minutes, laughing, clinking glasses, talking about how low-tier the decorations looked and how they'd make sure my mom wasn't an eyesore in the family photos. When Logan played the clip for me, I didn't speak. I felt hollow. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, not because I thought Haley was perfect, but because I knew what my mom had done for her. The kindness, the time, the love. And this was how they spoke about her behind closed doors, like she was something to be hidden, an inconvenience. Logan didn't say much after that. He just said, "I'm sorry, man. I didn't know if it was my place. But I couldn't not tell you." I thanked him, hung up, and sat in silence. I didn't tell Haley. I didn't show the clip to my mom. Not because I didn't think she could handle it, but because she shouldn't have to. She didn't need to carry the weight of what they really thought. Not after everything she'd already given us. I didn't know what to do next. But I knew one thing with absolute clarity. There would be no wedding. The next few days were surreal. On the outside, everything looked picture perfect. Haley's Instagram was full of cheerful selfies from the bachelorette suite, matching pajamas, mimosa towers, a bride vibes-only neon sign in the background. Her captions were a mix of glitter and gloating. "Final fling before the ring. Ring kiss mark hashtag future Mrs. Walker." I scrolled past them with a blank stare. The girl in those photos looked like someone I used to love. Someone I thought I knew. Inside, I was spiraling. I hadn't told anyone what I heard, not even Caleb. Every time I thought about confronting Haley, something inside me locked up. Not fear exactly, more like grief. Like I was already mourning the life I thought we were about to build. Haley texted me nonstop. Updates, excited check-ins, countdowns. She even sent a photo of a mini cake her bridesmaids surprised her with. White frosting, edible gold flakes, our initials on top. I replied with short, polite responses. She didn't notice the shift. Meanwhile, my mom was still quietly helping with final details. She double-checked the catering arrival time. She confirmed transportation for guests flying in. She was making small sachets of lavender to place on dinner plates as a thank you gift, a tradition from her grandmother, passed down through our family. I watched her tie one of the sachets, humming to herself at our dining table, and I wanted to scream. She had no idea what they said about her. What Haley said about her. I couldn't tell her. I couldn't break her like that. But I also couldn't pretend anymore. Something inside me was shifting, slipping from denial into something harder, more final. Then, 2 days before the wedding, Haley dropped by unannounced. She brought pastries from her favorite cafe and flopped onto the couch like nothing was wrong. She talked about her spray tan, her nails, her hair appointment schedule. She was glowing, radiant, even. But her words were thin, empty. At one point, she walked into the kitchen, grabbed a paper towel, and without realizing it, wiped a small trail of powdered sugar off my mom's photo on the fridge. The same photo where they stood together laughing, arms linked, from a 4th of July barbecue 2 summers ago. She didn't even look at it. And I realized in that moment, she didn't see my mom anymore. She saw an obstacle, an inconvenience. And maybe, she always had. When she left, she kissed me on the cheek and said, "Next time I see you, we'll be husband and wife." I just nodded. She didn't notice that I didn't say it back. That night, I sat alone in our apartment, the lavender sachets still on the table, untouched. I picked one up, inhaled, let the scent ground me. Then I opened my laptop and started canceling things. One by one. Once I started canceling things, it was like opening a valve I didn't realize I'd been holding shut. Everything started moving, fast and quietly. I began with the little things. The boutonnieres, the guest book, the monogrammed aisle runner, all the extra fluff that no one would really miss. I told vendors there had been a change of plans. Most were sympathetic. A few asked questions. I kept it vague. But deep down, I knew what I was doing. I wasn't postponing a wedding. I was dismantling it. I hadn't told Haley yet. I couldn't. Not until I was sure I had the strength to deal with the fallout. So I kept my mask on. Texted back with heart emojis. Answered calls with a smile in my voice. Pretended, for just a little longer, that everything was fine. Then Caleb caught me. We were at the venue doing a final walkthrough. Just the two of us. He noticed I was distracted, barely responding, sweating through my shirt, even though it was 65 degrees and breezy. "Dude," he said, grabbing my shoulder. "What's going on?" I hesitated. Then I told him everything. I watched his face go from confused, to horrified, to full-on livid. "Are you serious?" he whispered. "She said all that? About your mom?" I nodded. He looked around, lowered his voice. "Then why are we still standing in this overpriced vineyard acting like a wedding's happening?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Because I'm afraid? Because I've sunk too much into this? Because I don't want to watch my mom's heart break when I tell her it was all a lie?" Caleb didn't try to pep talk me. He didn't say you'll get through this, or maybe it's just a misunderstanding. He just said, then let's end it the right way. And that's when another blow landed, one I never saw coming. Later that day, I got a call from our florist. She was confirming some last-minute changes to the ceremony layout and had accidentally CC'd me on an email string I was never supposed to see. It was a conversation between Diane and the wedding planner. Subject line, revised seating adjustments. The message read, "Please move Ellen to table 16 with overflow. Somewhere discreet, near the kitchen. We can have her move up for the reading and return quickly to her seat." My stomach dropped. They weren't just tolerating my mom. They were scripting around her, treating her like a camera-blocking prop. That was it. The pretend game was over. I didn't know exactly when I'd confront Haley yet. But I knew one thing for sure. This wedding was already dead. The day before the wedding, I asked Haley to meet me alone. No bridal party, no planners, no champagne. Just her and me at the apartment we were supposed to move into after the honeymoon. The one with the white wall she wanted to paint, eggshell, not ivory, and the gold hook she'd already ordered for the entryway. I told her I wanted a quiet moment before the chaos of the big day. She showed up wearing a cream wrap dress and brought almond croissants from that bakery she always said was our spot. Her hair was curled, her smile practiced, her nails a perfect pale pink. I almost felt guilty. Almost. We sat down at the table where, Just 2 weeks earlier, we'd picked reception songs together. She reached for my hand, but I pulled mine away. Haley, I said, we need to talk. Really talk. She blinked, smiled at me just slightly. Okay, what's going on? I took a breath. I know what you said about my mom. Her expression didn't change. Not right away. She tilted her head, confusion blooming. What do you mean? I know about the conversation. The bachelorette night. I know what your mom said. What you said. The silence that followed was loud. Her eyes darted, calculating. What, did someone tell you something out of context? Logan heard it. He recorded it. That was when the smile dropped. Logan, she said, like the name tasted sour. I wasn't looking for proof, I added quickly. I didn't need to. I just couldn't unhear it. Her mouth opened, then closed. Then she laughed, a short, bitter sound. Oh my God. You're going to blow everything up over a joke? Are you serious, Luke? It was a bachelorette party. People talk crap. People vent. That's what it's for. You called my mom an eyesore, I said. You said you wished she wouldn't come. You planned to hide her. That's not venting. That's cruelty. Haley stood abruptly, knocking her chair back slightly. You're choosing her over me? I'm choosing decency, I said. You're throwing away our wedding and our life because of one stupid mistake? I stood too. No, Haley. I'm walking away because I finally saw who you are when you think no one's watching. And I can't marry someone who treats people like problems to be edited out of photos. Her eyes filled, but it wasn't sorrow. It was fury. I can't believe you'd do this to me. After everything I planned, everything we planned. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard one of the picture frames fell off the wall. I didn't move. Just stared at the doorway, heart pounding, hands shaking, not from doubt, but from relief. It was over. And it needed to be. I didn't tell anyone right away. No dramatic announcement. No angry posts. Just silence. But silence, it turns out, doesn't last long when you cancel a wedding 18 hours before it starts. The first wave came from vendors. I called the venue. Told them the event was off, but I'd still pay what was owed. The manager, who had seen hundreds of weddings, didn't even ask why. He just said, you're not the first, and you won't be the last. Good luck, man. Next came the florist, the caterer, the DJ. I told each of them the same thing. The wedding was off. No, I wouldn't be rescheduling. Yes, I'd cover what I signed for. Then came the ripple. Haley's side found out fast. She must have called her parents right after storming out, because by the next morning, Diane had already fired off a mass email to close family and friends. In it, she painted herself and Haley as victims. Said the groom had a meltdown and abandoned the wedding due to personal issues he refuses to address. She even implied I'd been unstable for weeks, trying to undermine Haley's confidence with emotionally manipulative behavior. Emotionally manipulative behavior? I was the one cleaning up the pieces of the life she smashed. I read that email 3 times before deleting it. I didn't respond. But someone else did. Caleb. He posted a short but deadly accurate Facebook status. You can't spin the truth forever. Some people walk away because they finally find the courage to stop enabling cruelty, no matter how expensive the dress is. People noticed. Haley's bridesmaids were split. Some messaged me privately to ask what really happened. One even apologized and said she regretted staying quiet that night at the suite. Guests started canceling, some awkwardly, others with quiet support. A few outright said they couldn't believe what they were hearing about Haley and her family. My phone buzzed all day. I ignored most of it. And my mom? She was confused at first. She saw the cake had been canceled, the dress return scheduled. I finally told her the wedding was off, just that something happened, and I couldn't go through with it. She didn't ask for details. Just hugged me and said, whatever the reason, I'm proud of you. It broke me. Not because I was sad, but because for the first time in this whole damn process, someone responded with love. And that's when I knew I'd made the right choice. The day after the canceled wedding, I thought the worst was over. It wasn't. The morning started quiet. Coffee. Emails. A weird sense of calm that felt more like the eye of a storm than the end of one. My phone had finally stopped buzzing. Caleb had offered to come over, but I told him I needed a day to breathe. Then, around 11 a.m., there was a knock at the door. I opened it, and there stood Richard, Haley's dad, dressed in his usual business casual perfection. Pressed shirt, tailored blazer, that fake smile grimace he always wore when he was about to say something awful in a polite tone. Can we talk? He asked, already pushing past me before I could answer. He walked into my living room like he owned the place, looked around, then turned to face me like we were in a boardroom and I just failed to close a deal. "I'll keep this brief," he said. "You made a mess. An expensive, humiliating mess. And I'm here to offer you a way to fix it." I raised an eyebrow. "There's nothing to fix." He ignored me. "You'll issue a formal apology privately to Haley, publicly to the guests. You'll tell everyone you had cold feet, that you panicked, that Haley was blameless. You'll salvage her reputation." I blinked, stunned. "You want me to lie?" "I want you to be a man," he snapped, eyes narrowing. "You embarrassed my daughter, my family. You think this won't follow you? People talk. People remember." My hands were fists at my sides, and I hadn't even noticed. "I walked away because your daughter and your wife humiliated my mother," I said, voice low and even. "I have the receipts. If you want to go public, let's go public." For a second, just a flicker, Richard's smugness cracked. "You wouldn't dare," he said. I smiled. "Try me." He stepped closer. "You think your little audio clip matters? People like us survive scandal. People like you? You get buried by it." That did it. I stepped between him and the door. "Get the hell out of my house. Now." He stared at me, calculating. Then, slowly, he turned and walked out just as calmly as he came in. But I knew something had changed. The gloves were off. 2 days after Richard stormed out of my apartment, I got a message that flipped everything on its head. It was from Logan, the same friend who overheard the conversation at Haley's bachelorette party. He'd been keeping quiet since everything blew up, but now his name popped up on my screen with a simple line. "Hey, you need to hear this." He attached a voice memo. It wasn't a recording this time, it was him, explaining something he should have told me a long time ago. Apparently, this wasn't the first time Haley had been caught scheming. Back in college, she'd been part of a tight-knit friend group that imploded when one of her best friends got engaged first. According to Logan, Haley didn't take it well. She started ghosting the friend, spreading rumors, even hinting that the guy had secrets he didn't. The engagement ended within a month. And Haley? She told people she was relieved because they were never going to last. Logan hesitated to tell me earlier, thinking maybe she'd changed, that maybe I was different, that maybe being with me had softened her. But after what I heard at that party, he said in the message, I realized it was all still there. She just got better at hiding it. I stared at my phone, my throat dry. I had defended Haley through every small red flag, every excuse. Every time she brushed off a cruel comment as just my mom being intense. Every time she said she didn't mean it like that. But Logan's story wasn't isolated. Once the wedding was officially canceled and Diane's narrative started unraveling, more people came forward. A former coworker messaged me anonymously, saying Haley once tried to get her fired because she wore the same outfit to a party. Another mutual acquaintance admitted Haley would quietly blacklist friends if they got more attention than her on social media. And still, she had almost convinced me I was the problem. It wasn't just heartbreak anymore. It was realization. I hadn't just dodged a painful relationship. I had escaped a life where I would have constantly questioned myself, doubted my instincts, watched my mom shrink in corners while Haley played queen. And for the first time since I called off the wedding, I slept through the night. The morning after I listened to Logan's message, I drove to see my mom. No texts, no heads up, just me and a need to finally say out loud what I'd been carrying for weeks. She opened the door still wearing her gardening gloves, smudges of soil on her cheek. She smiled, but her eyes did that quiet scan, the one moms do when they know something's wrong, even before you say a word. I followed her into the kitchen. She poured us coffee, sat across from me at the table, and waited. I called it off, I said, even though she already knew. I know, she said softly. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I didn't want to disappoint you. Her face fell just slightly. Disappoint me? I nodded. You did so much. Helped with everything. Believed in us. And I let her treat you like you didn't belong. She took my hand. Her voice was calm, but firm. Look, the only thing that would have disappointed me is if you'd gone through with it. I looked away, my throat burning. She continued, I always hoped she loved you as much as you loved her. And I always hoped she'd grow to love me too. But I knew, deep down, I knew. She was polite, yes. But warmth can't be faked for long. I blinked. Why didn't you say anything? Because you were happy. Or trying to be. And because you loved her. And sometimes, look, love makes us quiet when we should speak. I didn't want to be the reason it fell apart. You weren't, I said, voice tight. They were. We sat in silence for a while. She got up, went to the cupboard, and pulled out a small box I didn't recognize. Inside were the lavender sachets she'd made for the wedding. Dozens of them, each tied with string, carefully labeled. I was going to throw them away, she said. But I didn't. Why not? Because I made them with love, she said. And love doesn't go to waste. Even if the people we gave it to didn't deserve it. I swallowed hard. That's when I realized how much she had seen. How much she'd chosen not to say. How many quiet wounds she'd taken just to keep peace. I hugged her longer than I had in years. We didn't need a wedding to feel like a family. We already were one. It had been 5 days since the wedding was supposed to happen. I thought that would be the end of it. The whispers, the emails, the awkward text messages from mutual friends who just wanted to check in. I'd started boxing up the remains of that life. The wedding favors. The honeymoon brochures. The suit I never wore. Then she showed up. Haley. I heard the knock before I saw her, and something in my gut told me, don't open that door. But I did. She stood there in a long beige coat, hair pulled back, lips pressed tight like she'd practiced every word on the drive over. She was holding a paper bag from the bakery where she used to buy croissants for us. Hi, she said, with a forced smile. Hi, I replied, leaning on the door frame but not stepping aside. Can we talk? I didn't answer. Just waited. She took a breath. I'm sorry. I said nothing. I know things got out of hand. And I didn't mean for it to go the way it did. I was under pressure. My parents were stressing me out, and the wedding just made everything harder. I raised an eyebrow. You planned to hide my mom at the back of the room. That wasn't personal, she said too quickly. It was just logistics. I let out a low laugh. You called her an eyesore, Haley? She looked down. I was being stupid. Immature. I got caught up in everything, and I made a mistake. You made a choice. She looked up again, eyes wide. But we can fix this. We don't need the wedding. We could elope. Just you and me. No drama. Start fresh. That's when I realized she didn't miss me. She missed the image. The narrative. The security of not being the girl who got left. And I saw it so clearly then, how well she wore the mask. The way she'd always been able to charm, to pivot, to spin things into her favor. But I wasn't spinning anymore. I was standing still. I looked her in the eyes and asked, if Logan hadn't told me what you said, would you still have married me? Her silence was deafening. And in that pause, those 3 seconds of nothing, I got every answer I needed. No, I said softly. We're done. For real this time. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just nodded, lips tight, and walked away. And when the door clicked shut, it felt like the end of a story that had dragged on for way too much. They say when something burns down, the silence that follows is the loudest thing you'll ever hear. They're right. The week after Haley walked out of my apartment for the last time, the world felt muted. No more texts. No more vendors calling. No more forced smiles or fake laughs. Just quiet. But in that quiet, I found something unexpected. Peace. Not immediately. At first, it felt like grief. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to message her, out of habit. I'd see something online, wedding jokes, couples bickering about cake flavors, and feel a cold twist in my stomach. But slowly, the space she left behind stopped feeling empty. It started feeling like mine again. My mom was the first person to help me take that space back. She brought over leftovers one night, nothing fancy, just her roast chicken and those honey carrots she knows I like. We sat on the couch with a movie playing in the background, both of us pretending not to notice when we got teary during the quiet parts. You're stronger than you think, she said, not looking at me, just cutting her food. I didn't answer. But I felt it, maybe for the first time. Caleb showed up a few days later with a toolbox and a 6-pack. Figured we could fix the door frame, he said, and maybe your life, too. We didn't talk much while we worked. Just music playing, with squeaking, nails tapping. At one point, he handed me a beer and said, proud of you, man. And it meant more than he knew. Word spread. The story twisted, softened, reformed. Some people still believed Diane's version. Others knew better. But it didn't matter. I didn't owe anyone anything anymore. It's been a few months since I walked away from the aisle I never reached. Time's a funny thing. It doesn't heal all wounds like people say, but it gives you perspective. And sometimes, perspective is enough. I still think about her sometimes. Not with longing, not even with anger, just with a strange kind of quiet detachment. Like remembering a road trip that ended at a cliff instead of a destination. I think more about my mom. About how she held her dignity even when they tried to shrink her. About how she never once said, I told you so, even when she had every right to. Real love doesn't let you erase someone's mother from a seating chart. It doesn't plan photo angles to crop out a woman who made your fiancé into the man you're marrying. It doesn't whisper cruelty behind champagne glasses and call it just venting. Real love sits in the quiet with you. It defends you, even when it's uncomfortable. It stands by the people you care about, not just when it's easy, but when it counts. I've learned to listen more now to the small gut feelings, the quiet discomforts, the moments when someone's silence is just as loud as another's insult. I don't ignore those signs anymore. I've also learned that leaving isn't failure. Sometimes it's the bravest, kindest thing you can do for yourself, for the people who've loved you the longest, for the life you deserve. So if you're reading this, sitting in the wreckage of something you thought would last, wondering if it's too late to walk away, I'll tell you what I wish someone had told me sooner. Love is never supposed to make you shrink. And if the only way to keep someone is to betray yourself, then it was never love at all.